Welcome to the Promo Perspectives podcast presented by Sage, dedicated to giving promotional products, suppliers, and distributors tips, tricks, and insights to help them grow their business. I am Gabe Gotai, Senior Marketing Coordinator at Sage.
Patrick Harvat, Distributor Sales Team Lead, and I'm back again.
That's
Thanks
right.
for having me.
New co-host. We are wrapping up. This is our last episode on our series covering fulfillment. We've done live streamed episodes. We've had 2 different episodes with guest distributors, and today, very excited. It's always great to have a supplier perspective on Promo Perspectives because they're half the industry, right?
Yeah, I'm excited for this one because you don't often, you hear a lot, at least from Sage, on the distributor perspective. So I think getting especially a major supplier like S&S in here to just talk a little bit about not only the brands that they represent, but the process that they go through internally and some of the programs that they have that can benefit distributors so much. I think this is going to be a good one.
Oh yeah, both in like the abstract, like just in the sense that getting an idea of how a supplier does it might give you insights on how you're going to operate, but also very literally, Nick's going to give us some examples of programs they have and his advice for distributors.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So like we just said, we're having Nick Marconi from S&S Activewear, also now combined with AlphaBroder.
Yep.
Which means they are a huge player in the apparel game. He's going to be talking about how they work as a brand house, how they handle fulfillment, and some programs. So we'll just let Nick introduce himself.
Well, I'm Nick. I'm an inside sales account executive here with S&S. I've been with the company overall for going on 5 years. August will be 5 years for me here. Actually started in our Illinois warehouse. Did that for about 5-6 months. Then worked in our customer service department and did that for another 5-6 months and then joined the inside sales team. So it's been about 3.5 years on inside sales here at our headquarters office in the Chicago suburbs, and been loving it, and still young in the industry, but have learned a lot. Feel more and more seasoned as the time goes on, and really enjoying the industry. So we've always branded ourselves, and from before I got here, long time as the house of brands, the brand house, where we're able to offer a wide variety of brands for the market, from your basics to retail to fashion. So have core brands like Gildan, Jerseys, Hanes, moving into retail brands like Bella Canvas, Next Level, LAT, American Apparel, and then retail brands exclusively with Adidas and Columbia and Oakley, and then through our acquisition of AlphaBroder, now bringing on Under Armour and a number of others. So have a huge depth now, about over 130 brands available to our customers out there. So a really great selection of anything that anyone ever needs. And just lately this year, we are getting into a bit of the manufacturing with one of our new brands. It's called AllPro, sportswear brand that we are manufacturing ourselves with the help of Gildan, actually, and have high hopes for the brand. All sportswear, corporate wear, so performance, t-shirts, polos, quarter zips are what we're starting out with, and hopefully building it out from there. So we're stepping into that space, and then also bringing on private brands that AlphaBroder did really well for a long time through that acquisition. They're brands like Team 365, North End, Devin and Jones, and a few more. So have a great mix of everything. Yeah, so our new brand is AllPro, and that's one that we are manufacturing ourselves with the help of Gildan. It's all sportswear and corporate wear. 3 categories to start out: performance t-shirts, quarter zips, and polos. And then, as long as all goes well, plans to build it out from there.
I think about when I started at Sage, right? And I'm not even in sales, so my education in the industry was pretty top level, and then most of my education was about our tools and services. But even one of the very first things was like seeing a flow chart of how this industry worked, like what suppliers did, who they were, and then distributors and end users. And it took me a little while to understand some of the differences there. And now that I've been in it for a while, you think about everything that a supplier has to handle. Like, a lot of our distributors are small mom and pops because they are acting as the consultants and the intermediaries to get the products from the manufacturers then decorated and to the end user. And that doesn't always require a ton of physical space. But just listening to everything that like people like S&S or like Sanmar offer, that is a ton of product. And then now they even manufacture some of their own. The fulfillment logistics must be crazy.
Oh yeah, I mean I can't imagine, having what he said, 130 some odd different brands, not to mention your own that falls into like 3 different categories. Yeah, I mean you gotta have quite the warehousing space and organization, I guess, behind it too.
Well, and that was kind of the next thing that Nick was talking about, is how do they handle that warehousing and still manage to be a supplier working in so many different markets?
So we have a whole separate purchasing department, about 10 people or so. And they work with each person works with a number of our vendors. So Gildan, Bella Canvas, Adidas, everyone has those relationships to get our orders from those brands, forecast what we need, take info from sales and marketing, the overall plans of the brands that we want to sell the most, and build out our forecasting with each vendor to ensure that our stock levels are as good as possible for all of our customers' needs. So we have 8 warehouses across the U.S. that have been legacy S&S locations, and then through the acquisition of AlphaBroder, another 7 now available. So 15 warehouse locations for customers to order from, and we stock, main styles are stocked everywhere. So Gildan, Bella Canvas, Comfort Colors, brands like that are going to be available in just about every location, so everyone in the country can get them in a timely manner. Through all of the warehouses, we have 1 or 2 day delivery to 46 of the lower 48 states. Some areas in Montana and Wyoming are the only place that we can't get to yet, and hopefully we can in the future. But in terms of new stuff and how we stock that, initially starting out, our locations in Reno, Illinois, and Pennsylvania are our 3 biggest warehouses. So typically new brands will come in there first, and then based on how well they do, we will get them into all other locations in the future.
And this is kind of the backbone of the industry in a way, right? Like, in a previous episode, we talked about how customers don't necessarily distributors to be like Amazon. And the reason behind that is that Amazon is not really an e-commerce company. They're a logistics company. And that is the role that these big suppliers are filling in our industry by having, their big hub locations and then dealing with all of the other warehouses.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And I even just hearing that, 15 warehouses is about what he said, right, between all of them. Even that doesn't sound like it would be enough to cover all those brands in all the country, but I don't know if you've ever been to some of those locations.
I haven't checked any of those out yet, but I'd imagine they're probably massive.
Oh, yeah. I haven't been to S&S in particular, but I've been to the Sanmar one out in Arlington a few times. It's like the end of Ark of the Covenant, where you like just like the massive aisles of things to walk through. So far, all of that was really just to have Nick give us a little bit of insight into the massive operation that it is for suppliers. The rest of the episode, we're going to be talking a little bit more about, based on Nick's experience, what you as a distributor can be doing to make your own fulfillment process easier. And Patrick, you and I talked about before the PSST program with Sanmar, and we learned that Nick and S&S, they have a very similar offering.
It's almost identical type of offering. So, and many might not know about it. So an exciting thing that I know he talks about here is not only the benefits of their program, but potentially for the decorators here, how you might be able to get involved with that program.
Yeah, so let's have Nick share that, and then we'll talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, so CDN is a program that we have for a network of decorators across the country that mainly specialize in contract work. Maybe they don't order as much on their own accounts, or they do, and they also take in a lot of decoration for other customers. So we have about 300 decorators, over 300 currently in the network, and plans to add as many as possible going forward to continue to have those partners for our customers. Customers that ship to a contract decorator will get free freight on orders under $200. $200 is our normal freight threshold for any order. Have to be over that to get free shipping, but when you ship to a contract decorator, $10, $20, $30 order, we'll still have free freight. So that's a massive benefit. It also helps. There's no minimums from us. Maybe some decorators out there in the network will have minimums, but that's worked out between the decorator and that customer. And the main benefits is just that more businesses get to profit from the same project. So if I'm shipping an order with my end user client and I can't do the decoration myself, or I don't do any decoration myself, I can incorporate the third party contract decorator, and then they benefit from me working with them. I benefit from working with my end user, and more people benefit from that project overall. It also gives our customers more reach. So if the customer's here in Illinois and they want to expand their business regionally, they want to start working with customers in Wisconsin, Minnesota, wherever, they can reach out to us, find a decorator in those states to where they can have orders shipped from S&S directly to that decorator and then directly to that end user, which will save them a lot on shipping in the long run, and then just build those relationships so they can keep growing their business. Customer can use a contract decorator to make it easier for them when, again, they're working with a customer out of state and they don't want to ship an order from that state, avoid that cost. They can ship it directly to a partner in the state to get it to the end user. It helps their reach to grow the business that way. And then just kind of makes it easier on them. They can focus on, maybe they're still handling the artwork and the end goal with their client, but can pass on the decoration to the third party that are big time decorators. They know what they're doing. This is what they do all the time, and they can get that done for them. So right now, a lot of those requests come in internally. So customer might reach out to me and they're looking for decorators and options around them or in other states, and we have an internal team that we can go to get them a list. But we are working on a new CDN and embellishment page on our website that should be launching in May. So that's going to have a ton of info and great resources for customers to look at right on the website. And so we're excited about what's coming for that.
I mean, that's, like you said, it's very similar to the PSST program, and he kind of walked it through, but can you kind of reiterate what are the key points of that, and how can a distributor work a program like that into their fulfillment process?
Yeah, and he touched on some of that too, and I think I'll get to that in a second. But yeah, so basically the CDN network, I'm not sure if he said what I guess the acronym stands for, is Contract Decorator Network. So that's obviously the S&S solution to like a PSST type of program. But the benefit there, I mean, he nailed it. Like they don't have any minimums with AlphaBroder. Granted, your decorator might, but you have potential now working with one of these CDN decorators where now the idea of low minimums and all that stuff's kind of out the window. And that's a lot of what a hesitation from a distributor perspective, what the hesitation is, right? Like, I need to be able to do onesie, twosies at somewhat of an affordable cost. How do I do that? So the best advice I would always give would be, take a look for like a SanMar decorator, in this case now a CDN decorator. One point he really made, and I think kind of sort of reflects on the previous episode we did where Jack was talking about, I have a customer that might have locations all over the country. So you can partner with those decorators to those regions to not only lower the cost of shipping, but also, lower the time frame of fulfillment if, the store, I guess, conversation has gone down that route. So expanding your business beyond your region, because you may have a corporate client that, they're headquartered here in Plano, Texas, but they also have a location in Spokane or in New York, and I have my decorators here in Dallas, so shipping from Dallas to New York, it might be beneficial for me to see if I can partner with a decorator that's regional to where my client's other office location is. So yeah, I mean, there's lots of tidbits he had there that I think just utilizing not only S&S, but their network is going to expand your reach and really just kind of make the whole process much simpler for you, not to mention free shipping. I mean, who doesn't like that, right?
Right. No, and that's something we'll talk about it later, is kind of how by selling to your customers these large variety of products from one or two large suppliers makes that whole thing easier. And a lot of the store programs that we talked about in our previous episodes are meant for well, let's gather all the information so we can place one big order after we get all the Sage store orders in, or let's gather that information beforehand so we can place that order and have the customer pay for it before. But you're not always going to be able to do that. Sometimes you're going to have those onesie twosies, and it's great to have a program like that. I mean, those $10-something minimums, that's just like a handful of shirts or a couple of hats, right? And compared to the normal minimums, which might be like 72, just to break that threshold.
Yeah, and he said anything under $200, so that those $30, $40, $50 orders, you're still going to reap the benefit, of free shipping on that. I think he did make a point, I guess it still is on the decorator if they have minimums themselves or not. I'm sure some do, especially the ones that typically do larger quantities of printing. They may have their minimums 25 or something like that. But even then, it's definitely going to be a beneficial program for distributors to take a look at. He talked a little bit about this, and I mentioned it in the kind of the preview, just kind of teasing the previous segment. But I guess for those contract decorators that are listening in right now, this kind of leads into our next segment, which would be, what are the qualifications? How would a decorator get involved with the CDN network? So,
yes, we do have a spoilage fund for Contract Decorator Network. Customers and partners to use for damaged goods that come in, decoration hiccups. They can use that fund to get replacements on the way ASAP. And then they do a little bit of a rebate marketing fund from us as well. So we have a number of qualifications. None of them are super strict. We kind of work it on a case-by-case basis. So volume is one. How much are they getting shipped into them over the course of a year? Whether we can look at what's already coming in from us or from other suppliers out there. Majority of their business should ideally be the contract, where they're not quite ordering a ton for themselves. They're mainly just focusing on that contract work being shipped in from other customers. And then we look at their decoration equipment. So do they offer a variety of decoration techniques, screen print, embroidery, heat transfer, anything else? How big their facility is, how much can they take on, and then kind of location as well to see if they're a partner in a state where we maybe don't have contract decorators at the moment, then it could be a good fit to add someone to keep building that reach across the country. Yeah, so if you have a sales rep, definitely reach out to them and have that conversation about becoming one of our partners on the CDN. If you don't have a sales rep, our customer service team is here to help as well. So just reach out to us and we're happy to have that conversation.
Well, earlier when I mentioned in my orientation at Sage and like that flow chart of how the industry works, decorators were kind of a weird one because they can lean kind of to the supplier or to the distributor side, depending on specifically how they do it. So like Nick said, it'll depend a little bit on how you take your orders, but if you are a listener and you offer decoration services and you're not buying a lot of stuff for yourself to sell, you're mostly taking on contracts, definitely look into that. Reach out to S&S. Maybe reach out to Sanmar if you haven't already. See if you can be part of the PSST program. And if you're just a distributor who doesn't do any decorating, again, these programs are a great way to shore up some of those gaps in your fulfillment service. All right, so now moving on from some of S&S's particular programs, we were asking Nick, he works with a lot of distributors. He sees from a different angle what their fulfillment process is like, and we asked him if he had any tips or advice for distributors on how to make that process easier.
Yeah, so I always encourage customers to get into as many kinds of offerings as possible. So if they're maybe only doing apparel, maybe look at hats, maybe look at accessories that they can add in just for added value to their end users. Maybe you can bundle a hat and a t-shirt and a towel or something all into one order to where then they get more out of it, more branding for whatever kind of end user it is, whether it's a school or a company. My customer benefits more from selling more to them, and then we benefit more from added orders and dollars as well. So always like to encourage a broad offering whenever possible and whenever they can. When it comes to specifics and specific kind of projects, whether it be team stores or corporate stores, that's where I kind of tailor it to getting a little more focused. I try to always find my customers a selection of styles that are in high inventory. We can get to them quickly and have the right fits, color, sizes, style for their end user. that can just be, repeat classics. Almost don't even have to give it a thought. So for example, like it's high school baseball season. The high school has a spring baseball spirit wear store. I might tell my customer working with that school, let's focus on a couple items from All Pro, maybe a t-shirt, polo, a quarter zip for parents to wear, a couple hoodies. Independent trading is a great one there. A Toltex 202 t-shirt for a basic t-shirt that anyone can order and rock in the stands, and then maybe a hat. So 5-7 styles right there. They can put that into a store for the high school. It's easy and just makes everyone's life a little simpler there. A lot of my customers, they're ordering from Sanmar, they're ordering from other suppliers, and yes, I encourage people to utilize as many people as possible when it's not always just myself. It just gives them the flexibility to use things when they need it and they're not stuck in something. And then also gives me the opportunity to win that business back when needed, to help myself and continue to help S&S. But yeah, always encouraging them to find what works best for them. It's not always going to be through myself and S&S, but I'm always here when they need me.
Well, and I think kind of one of the key points there too is like by offering that variety, you're not only making the fulfillment process a little easier because you're working with a big supplier like S&S, Alpha, Sanmar, where you can get that big variety and work with their programs to make the shipping and warehousing a lot easier, but you're providing a lot more value to your customer too, which is going to mean repeat business. And then if they're not already, on the stores, they become repeat customers, which become perfect opportunities to set up an online store. And they figured out what they like from previous orders. And over time, you strengthen those relationships and you make the fulfillment process easier.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. And I think a lot of it too is kind of familiarizing yourself with those variety of products. So, being able to offer jackets, offer shirts, polos, he mentioned some accessories like maybe sunglasses or bags and all that stuff. Just being more familiar with those products because you offer those products on a regular basis just helps you kind of steer the customer down the path of, because he even mentioned kind of being a little more focused when you're talking about a corporate store or something like that. Oftentimes, the customer wants everything under the moon. So because you're familiar with all these different varieties and you have access to all these different varieties, you can now kind of steer them down the path of, I guess, best choice, best options. And to kind of build upon that, we asked him a little bit about samples and getting samples. And I think that's one thing distributors tend to miss too is, yeah, you have your suggestions, but if your customer is still stuck with having everything under the moon, getting samples and getting something you can feel, they can touch and feel, whether or not they want to make the decision to put that in the store still or not, that is up to them. But getting access to samples, and he kind of touches a little bit more on this. We can play that clip.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I always try to work with customers on samples to outfit their end user so they get an exact size run when it comes time to place the order. They know exactly what they need. Maybe they order a couple extras just in case there's any damages or hiccups in decoration. So I always try to do that first when the time allows and when the project is right to make everything smoother in the long run. We've actually kind of reworked our sample program. We're now offering specific kinds of discounts on our exclusive and owned brands. So that's our All Pro brand that I talked about before, and then AlphaBroder's brands that we brought on, like the Team 365, North End, Devin and Jones. So that those discounts are now available to customers that, maybe they don't have a sales rep. They can order that right through our customer service team. And then as for me and my customers, I have a quarterly sample budget that we work with. So anytime they need samples, they reach out to me, and discounts can be flexible at that time and can get them anything they need.
So yeah, like Nick was saying there, and I'm sure S&S is not the only supplier that has a program like that makes it a little more financially feasible for the distributor to get samples in to make sure the customer is getting something they're going to like. And that's going to help the fulfillment process out in a lot of ways, from customer satisfaction to, repeat orders, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, we talked about this before, you're the consultant behind it. And now at this point, I would probably say the expert behind it, whether you think you are or not, customer is going to view you like that, right? So,
Well, and in another way too, besides just like being the expert and securing repeat business, think about what it does to your fulfillment process if you have to deal with returns.
yeah.
Like if a customer picks the cheapest items of all of the things you presented to them, because like you said, maybe they're a new customer, they're not sure what they want to do, they might pick that cheapest item and they might not like it.
Right.
But if you can go through a process like this, get the samples in, and get that discovery ahead of time, you're going to make it smoother, and it's just going to make everybody's life easier and help everybody, make a little more money, because that's what we're here to do, right?
I would agree.
All right, well, I want to thank Nick for coming on and giving us some of the supplier perspective on that. This is going to be the end of our series of fulfillment. Patrick, thanks so much for coming on and sharing your expertise.
Hey, I appreciate it. Again, thanks for having me.
I really hope that you guys got a chance to learn more about this. The next few series that we're going to do, we're going to take a switch to marketing, a little less operational. We have some episodes coming out on social media and video production and other digital marketing strategies. And then we're going to come back in a little while after that, and we're going to move on to decoration methods. And you might see a return from Patrick on those episodes.
I might be back.
So, if you're just listening for the first time, go ahead and subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. Head to sageworld.com to figure out when the next live stream is, because we do every 4 or 5 of these episodes, we'll do one live, and you can hop in and ask questions. Great opportunity to network with other distributors in the industry and learn more to grow your business. So thanks again, Patrick. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.